course, the song after the lesson's 934. You see it up there. I don't want to hear any complaining from Kurt or Adis or other guys about song leading. If I hear any of that, you're up there next time to lead. Okay? But we did a fine job anyway, I think. This is the traditional site of the Sermon on the Mount by the Sea of Galilee. And in that, when we read about it in Matthew chapter 5, now when he saw the crowds, he went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And then he continues with the Beatitudes, the kind of attitudes that we need to have. He then gives several examples of how to live. One of them is go the second mile. Do what is unexpected. Do what is expected, and then some. And he talks about love. He talks about even loving your enemies. Then he talks about prayer and how we're to be reverent in our prayer and sincere in prayer. He talks about don't worry. Just live one day at a time. Then he talks about do not be judgmental of others. And then he begins to talk about praying for discernment, to be able to treat people in a merciful and understanding way. And then he finally kind of gets to the zenith of this, the golden rule. He uses the example of prayer, which I've already mentioned. He gives examples of things that might look similar, but would be deceptive. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to you? So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. I want to talk about, give you 3 examples that from recently in the news to kind of illustrate what Jesus teaches here. One of them is what happened on January the 4th. And if you watch the news, Eddie, you probably saw that there was a big backup on Interstate 95 between Richmond and Washington, D.C. I mean, vehicles, trucks, all kinds of cars. They were backed up for miles. There was couples in the cars, there were families, some had pets, there were individuals, there were truck drivers. They were all stuck there for about 24 hours. Now, how would you like that? I don't think I could function very well in a situation like that. But some of them describe the night as absolutely terrifying and freezing also. Now, the next morning, this couple, they're sitting there in their vehicle. They could see up in front of them several vehicles separated, but they could see this truck. And it was Schmidt Baking Company. There was a website there, and she was able to look it up, the telephone number. She called customer service. And she told them of their situation, and she begged for help. And she said that after almost 21 hours of being stuck on 95 South, sleeping here overnight, not having access to food or water, and all the nearest towns being out of power, we were tired, frustrated, and hungry. Then they saw that truck there. Made a phone call. She said, we didn't think it would actually work, but less than 20 minutes later, we were in for an incredible surprise. One of the owners of the company called her personally and said that their contracted truck driver, Ron Hill, would open up the back and begin to offer bread to people who were stuck on the interstate. And this couple, John and Casey, they assisted him. Ron had sat in the truck praying, not knowing what to do. But that's all he did. He sat there and he prayed, not knowing what to do. And I'm sure that many other people were praying during that afternoon, evening, and night too. Jesus says we must persist in our prayers. We must keep asking, keep knocking, keep seeking. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, he who seeks finds, and him that knocks the door will be opened. Well, here, good things happened. Who are we going to give the credit to? People were praying. Ron Hill gets out of the truck and starts offering loaves of bread to people. We find that Casey and John, they got out and they helped also distribute the loaves of bread. And there was a message from the company that was tweeted out. It said, shout out to Casey and John who helped get the bread rolling. And the fearless Ron Hill, one of our contract drivers who's got a heart as big as a bread bowl. So of course Casey didn't know the background of the company. It was established by Greek immigrants in Maryland back in 1943. It's actually called H&S Bakery now. The company has donated about 3 million loaves of bread during this pandemic. She didn't know that. She didn't know their character. But Casey, John, and Ron, they passed out an estimated 500 loaves that day. Now, if you saw the story on the news, you may faintly remember it. Did you know this? I did not know the details of what had happened like that. I knew the government didn't come and help them. But God did in a way. As Casey and her husband handed out the bread on Wednesday morning, January 5th, they saw some people almost brought to tears, as well as their surprise that the food was free, and relief showed on their faces. The truck driver's prayers were answered, and I'm sure that many others were praying as well. Even though Casey had doubts, she asked, and the company responded by giving the bread. Asking is the beginning to receiving. The couple reminds me about how important it is to ask. That's where all the kindness started. How she asked was wise. She was not demanding, but instead she was begging for help. Proverbs 16:21 states that the wise in heart will be called understanding, and sweetness of speech increases persuasiveness. Jesus stresses the importance of asking by teaching, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. We see from James, the Lord's brother, that every good and perfect gift is from above. If you were stuck in that situation, do you would consider a loaf of bread a good gift? I certainly would. Being stuck there for 24 hours, that's a good gift. Unless you came loaded with all kinds of food, and I doubt many people had that. God only gives good gifts. Coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. It does not change like shifting shadows. They were following the example of God's kindness and love and mercy, whether they knew it or not. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. And here's a good way of thinking about the golden rule. Blessed, or blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God, or children of God. When the Greek writer Homer used this word, this Greek word that was translated for blessed, to refer to the so-called Greek gods, he was saying they were happy within themselves because they weren't affected by the affairs on the earth. But if we're going to be merciful, we're going to be affected by other things that are happening around us on this earth. We are affected by the world's problems when we're merciful. But how do you think Ron Hill, Casey, and John felt after handing out this bread to others? Blessed. I'm sure they felt blessed. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. We see two other examples of this that I want to share with you. One is this idea of being merciful. And I want to give you an example of it. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Jesus uses mercy after he calls Matthew, the tax collector, to be his disciple. You remember how Matthew was so excited that he invited all of his friends, so-called tax collectors, and the Pharisees looking at him, sinners, and he's sitting there and he's eating with them. And boy, they look at it with disdain. And when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick." And then look what he says, the very next verse, Matthew chapter 9. "But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Are we to give people what they deserve? Well, you can look at many different situations, that person deserves what they get. Now, sometimes you might say, well, that guy deserved the promotion that he got. Or she received a compliment. She deserved those compliments that she got. And that's usually in a positive way, but I don't think that's common. It's more rare. But more often it's in the negative. He deserved every bad thing that happened to him. Well, what other choice do we have? That's where mercy comes in. This is how God treats us. What about this? Instead of giving people what they deserve, give them what they need. That's mercy right there. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. There's a homeless boy. He gets a bed. It's just amazing when you think about this. This boy had been in and out of shelters with his mom, and finally has his own room and bed. And when he sees it, he's so excited at first, and then he realizes it and he's overwhelmed with emotion. A nonprofit organization made this possible, and then, look, he enjoys his room. He enjoys it. He's glad to show what he has, but he didn't have it before. And he and his mother, they kneel down and they're praying to God. They're giving thanks to him for the blessings. And when I look at that, I think, what should we count when it comes to blessings? Tiny and insignificant things? Do you have a bed to sleep on? Have you ever given thanks for the bed? Take it for granted. It's easy. It's easy to take trivial things. We need to count them, list them, pray about them each day before going to bed, when getting up. Here's an example. Give us today our daily bread. Boy, that would be some prayer on that interstate, wouldn't it? Give us today our daily bread. A potentially dark, dreary day will turn into a bright, shiny day when we're thankful. A good day will result when we do various things using our hands. See the beauty of the flowers? I don't know where you're going to see that unless you go to a florist place right now. Maybe you have some in your house. I don't know. Enjoy the aroma and the taste of delicious food. Do it with gratitude. To see, walk, taste, feel. I'm going to be thankful this afternoon. I think I might be able to take a walk outside. I'm going to be thankful for that. Eat as well as have a home. Be thankful. Your bed, clothes, family, and friends, or the little things that we can appreciate, count, and list for a good day. Pleasant thinking and words of what this is, and pleasant words are like honey. They are sweet to the spirit, they bring healing to the body. Proverbs 16:24. We are also in the mercy, sharing business, with Christ getting the credit with the clothing house. Did you know that the clothing house is going through a big remake? It looks first class and professional. If you haven't been out there recently, this is what it looks like now. We used to have a bunch of shelves out there. Now we've got these clothing racks, hangers. All of the clothes can be put up there. About $2,000 has been donated from the community, without going into details about that, for this purpose, to help. Here's another example. Isn't that a wonderful blessing? I think it is going to be a wonderful blessing to other people who come in, and how easy it is to find the clothing that they need. Another thing that we need to consider when we're being merciful is to be generous. After all, didn't Jesus say, "Give and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into your lap. Where the measure you use, it will be measured to you." We see this in what Jesus teaches after the Beatitudes. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. I can imagine going into that room, and if the light's turned off, it's pitch dark. But if one light is turned on, I think you might be able to get by. But if more than one light is turned on, wow, the darkness is gone. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand and gives light to everyone in the house. Then he explains what the light is. He says, in the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. The good deeds, that's the light. And all the good deeds that we can do, that is light to people. They can be in the darkness. We can bring them into light. And good, what does it mean? According to the Greek lexicon, different synonyms that be used for it are beautiful, surpassing, useful, suitable, commendable, admirable. Can you imagine again the bed that boy received? The loaves of bread, were they useful, commendable, admirable? Beautiful, in fact, probably. So here's another example of a good deed that I wrote about a few days ago. It has to do with the City College of New York. They received a donation recently from an anonymous donor. And the school officials could have overlooked the gift because it came in a battered old cardboard box. I think that probably had to do with the mail service got thrown around, beaten up. But anyway, it sat there for 9 months because in New York, you know, the pandemic and what it's done. There wasn't any school there for 9 months. And then they finally opened up and they were going to offer courses. And the chairman of the physics department, he comes into his office and he sees this accumulation of mail and he sees this old beaten up cardboard box. And when he opens that old beaten up cardboard box, he saw more cash than he's ever seen in his life. $180,000 in cash, in stacks of $100 bills and $50 bills, and from different banks. It was accumulated for a while. And it came with a letter. But no one signed the letter. He was giving this to this university because he was so grateful for the education that he received. And he wanted this money to be used as scholarships for juniors and seniors at the school who were double majors like him in physics and math. He was just so thankful. And I don't know if you can see it, but down here he says that education provided him with a long, productive, immensely rewarding career. And he was thankful for it. When I'm reading that story, this certain proverb came to my mind. The wicked want what other evil people have stolen, but good people want to give what they have to others. Proverbs 12:12. He wanted to give $180,000 of what he had earned to help others in their education. Now you can look at that Bible. It's kind of beat up. Oh, I don't know if you would give that as a gift to someone, would you? Kind of a beat up Bible. But boy, if you could open that up, the education you would receive would be just wondrous, wouldn't it? All of the wisdom of God being there. And in fact, the wisdom of God kind of speaks like a person to us. In Proverbs 8, it says, I love those who love me, and those who seek me find me. My fruit is better than fine gold. What I yield surpasses choice silver. And I assume that as readers of God's Word, you have come across nuggets in God's Word that you don't want to keep to yourself. You would like to share them with others. And that's what we should do. To share with others and let them know the kind of education they can receive that we've received. Wise people. Proverbs 15:7 says, wise people use their words to spread knowledge, but there's no knowledge in the thoughts of fools. Jesus says, therefore, he's kind of summing up the Sermon on the Mount. He says, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And of course, certain time of year, there's these wadis. They become streams of water when it's rain season. And can you imagine someone building their house on the sand of that wadi? And then here it comes rain season and they just have it there. Doesn't have a firm foundation. This is his example. He said the rain came, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall. Because it had its foundation on the rock. It would be like to the side there. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority and not as their teachers of the law. The teachers of the law, they would say, Rabbi Shammai says this, or Rabbi Hillel says this. But Jesus didn't need to go to anyone like that. He was the authority. And he could speak from his heart about here's how to live your lives. He gave these instructions on how to live and it amazed people. When we practice them, it makes us different from worldly ways. In a sense, we'll be in color instead of the drab black and white. We're going to be different. Like the people on the left hand there in the color. Different with mercy, generosity, service, gratitude, and understanding. Because we're going to be following the example of Jesus. So let's take that. If you've got an old beaten up Bible or a newer one, just take it and open it up and learn more. And think about ways that you can share little nuggets that you get from it with others. And you'll be blessing them. And think about ways that you can help others, being merciful. That's how Jesus was. Let's practice the good deeds and let our light shine. If you're subject to the invitation of Jesus this morning, if you need our prayers, whatever might be your need, once you come,